Hey, how's it going, guys? So this is once again going to be another older Master Grade that we're going to be reviewing here. This is, of course, the original Master Grade Ver.Ka, the Gundam RX-78-2. So this is an old Ver.Ka, and this is a kit that I've been having in my collection here for a long time, and I have a specific plan for this. Is the reason why I got this, but it's just a project that I've never ever gotten around to. So hopefully I'll be able to get around to this in the near future, as it is Advanced Zeta related. So here on the front, just typical Ver.Ka style box art, just all white. And then it just has this really awesome Katoki illustration of his take on the Gundam there. It is missing like the background image. A lot of the newer Ver.Ka boxes also have like the background image of like a profile view of the Gundam or something like that, but this one's just the Gundam. Also, interestingly, that the Master Grade logo is down there in the bottom corner. It's almost always up in the top corner on more recent boxes. But anyway, let's just take a nice close-up look here at that illustration just to appreciate how awesome that looks straight off the bat before we get into the box itself. So going around here on the ends of the box, just kind of got the same thing, just a closer up look at the front of the Gundam. Over on this side, just some specifications of the Gundam itself there, and then we've got a sort of front and back image, but it's up at an angle, of course, here, so you can see the front and back of the Gundam. It's also going to come with a bazooka, as well as just the standard accessories, the beam rifle and the shield. Going around here onto the other side, we've got some more information there in Japanese, and then some detail images here of the chest, the backpack, the connector for the bazooka on the back skirt, the front skirt, the head, and the legs. So it's got a lot of really nice detail on there. The list price for this is 3,200 yen, so while it's pretty cheap and it's got some nice detail, it isn't going to be the best quality Master Grade in terms of the construction or the articulation, things like that, because this kit came all the way back in 2002, so it's been quite a while since this kit originally came out, and so we've got a lot of cool stuff in here. And this is also before the time that Ver.Kas were known for having a lot of water slides, as we don't have any water slides with this kit, unfortunately. We've got a whole bunch of armor and frame. I think it has mostly a full inner frame. I don't think it has a completely full inner frame, but it's got most of it there. So let's take a look here at the instructions. So for the instruction booklet here, we have a really cool image there of the Gundam's face looking very tough. There's one thing I love about the Ver.Ka design is that it has a more sort of tough, mean looking face compared to the other versions, the original Master Grade or even the 1.5, the 2.0. Here on the back, just that little bit of information there. Opening up to the center page, we've got a whole bunch of text there, once again all in Japanese. But over here you can see a photograph of a very nicely painted sample build there of this kit. It looks great, so there you go. Got some illustrations of the core fighter and the core fighter itself there. Close up on the head, again just some of the gimmicks here, some more illustrations over there. So that's all looking pretty cool. And another little image there of the back side of that. Opening it up to the front page, we've got the illustration there, which looks really nice. I gotta say, the head though does look a little bit different in the illustration than it does on the actual model kit. And there's Katoki Hajime. Some more text here. It's just a Katoki interview, so it's again just gonna be all in Japanese, but the illustration looks really good. It looks really nice. Over here, the illustration of the open hatch version of this, which I've seen, who was it on Twitter? A modeler on Twitter was recently making a model kit of this, making a modified kit with all these little open hatch gimmicks, basically recreating this image in a model kit form. Just some more nice illustrations down here of the Gundam's head, of the Gundam sitting up there, and some illustrations down there as well. So a lot of nice eye candy here in the manual, but let's get a look at the actual build. So we are going to have what looks like a reused runner there for the B runner, as we have a bunch of leftover parts on there, a couple leftover parts on the D runner as well. And then it's just on through the construction. So you build the torso and then the head, and it's kind of interesting how for here they have the Gundam like laying down on its side. I guess it's just to save space in the manual. They have it illustrated this way so that they can fit more in here. But then there's the arms, the upper body is then all done with the backpack, the legs, and skipping over the center page, finishing that up. And then we have the core fighter, which will be going in there, and then the waist and the legs, so finishing up the leg assembly, I guess the lower half assembly, and then the weapons. You've got all of that. And then finally, another nice big photograph there, and then the decal marking sticker guide for this. So we've got a bunch of marking stickers, but unfortunately no waterside decals. So you can see marking stickers and the dry transfers as well as our color guide down here at the bottom as well. So alright, let's get a look at the runners. First up, we do have a couple of foil stickers just for the eyes and the two head cameras there in red. Then we've got all the marking stickers, which do have some nice detail, and I'm sure these will look fine against the white plastic, but otherwise against the colored plastic, probably not going to be looking their best. You got a ton of them here though. And then we've got the dry transfers, and as much as I'd prefer water slides, these dry transfers do also look pretty nice. A bunch of really nice white base logos on there. It looks like you've got kind of doubles of everything too, so in case you mess anything up, you've got a lot of extras, so that looks pretty good. You also do have a little pack of 5 little screws that you're going to need to use for this, and PC 126 for a set of gray polycaps. And then runner A big 4-color runner here. We've got some of that slightly orangish yellow over there on the side, some plain clear up at the top, some nice blue there on the bottom, and then some kind of off-white, slightly creamish white color there for the main white color. Runner B here is in gray ABS plastic for parts for the frame. As you can see, some nice parts on there. And this is actually from the Master Grade Mecha Frame 1 is how the runner is labeled, which came out in 2002. So it did come out the same year, but apparently this was used with a different kit. Although I'm not exactly sure offhand. You guys can let me know in the comments what other Master Grade kits this was used for, coming out around the same time. Runner C then is back to our off-white color for a bunch more armor parts. You can see parts there for the head, as well as our seated and standing pilot figures on here as well. Runner D is also gray ABS plastic, labeled as Master Grade Mecha Frame 2, but interestingly over here we have a couple of additions here. These parts specific for the RX-78-2 Ver.Ka, as you can see there, and then this part for the backpack specifically for the Master Grade Jim Kai. So you can see that we're going to be using that for this kit as well, apparently. But then runner E is a bunch of our red parts for the kit, feet parts, shield parts, core fighter parts, and all that. Runner F, a small little runner of some more off-white parts. Runner G, some more off-white parts here for the feet, arms, and thighs, hand covers, beam saber handles. And runner H is back to gray again, but this time it's just regular polystyrene, not ABS, as this has a few more parts, like for the core fighter, the backpack, a few kind of frame and detail parts, hand parts on there, as well as all of our weapons parts. We also have this white cloth mesh tube here, which is going to go on the back of the knees, sort of similar to the Gundam Mark II Master Grade 2.0. Alright, so that is it for the unboxing, guys. It's going to be a pretty cool kit, I think, but I think it's going to be probably along the similar lines as the Master Grade Quell, as it's going to look pretty alright, but ultimately maybe not going to do all that much. They do a really good job in the promotional images in the box and in the manual of just making it look super nice. But I think out of the box, not going to be quite looking that good, of course. But so here it is, all built up, and you gotta say, I mean, despite it being a pretty old Master Grade and pretty simple technology, I mean, it doesn't have the full inner frame, doesn't have all the bells and whistles, and it certainly doesn't have the detail of modern Master Grades, it still looks pretty dang good, especially in its proportions and just overall design. I mean, it's got that Katoki Gundam design, so it does look very cool. It definitely needs a lot of work, no doubt about that. Some seam line removal, it could definitely use a little bit of detail up. I think maybe, again, it depends on your own personal taste, but you know, doing your best to, you know, detail this thing up, paint it up, and all that is going to make it look certainly better. But even just straight out the box, it does look pretty good for a Master Grade of its age, no doubt. So let's check it out in detail here. Starting off here on the head is where we're going to have the only real foil stickers on this, as we saw, just the ones for the eyes there and for the camera on the front and the back, little red ones there. Also, we're getting right into our very first seam line on the kit right here on the head. Now on the top of the head, there's like a panel line detail there, but on the sides of the head, that does seem to be just a seam line that you're going to want to remove off there. No separate part for the Vulcans, so you will need to paint those, mask those, paint those separately. I don't think it's going to be too difficult, but you will have those. I mean, the detail on there is molded in nice. You'll just have to do a little masking or hand painting there for that. The cockpit hatch does open up here, sort of, and you can see into what is basically the collapsed core fighter, which is inside there. And then you have a little bit of movement here, kind of at the waist, forward and back, although it's not really going to be too much really for the most part. It's just based on a ball joint, so you can pretty much just rotate that a little bit side to side. And then for the shoulders, you have no front and back movement there from the shoulders at all, but the shoulder armor will move up and down a little bit there on its own. You can bring the arm up to about 90 degrees, and that's going to be about the extent of that, so pretty minimal there in as far as like the shoulder articulation. The arm is just going to rotate there at the top, and then you have a double joint there in the elbow, which does give you a pretty good bend there for the elbow, so that's not too bad. The wrist is just on a ball joint here, and then we've got the old style Master Grade hands where the thumb is on a ball joint, and then the fingers are separated, the 3 and 1, to move those separately like that. Down here for the skirt armor, the front skirts will move up and down. You have some detail up underneath there, which is pretty nice. You'll need to paint that in though. And then the side skirts also move up a little bit like that. The back skirts, those are just fixed there in place. But we do have this little latch here in the center, which will open up, and that is where you're gonna be able to attach the bazooka into the back skirt there for storage. And on here on the backpack, of course, we've got beam saber handles up here at the top, and then each of these 4 little thruster bells will move on their own there on the backpack also. The hip joint is just a good old ball and socket joint, which no one likes because it's just not very good, and that will give you side-to-side movement out to about there. You can rotate the legs a little bit there at the top, just pretty much whatever the ball joint will allow there. And with the skirt armor up out of the way, you can bring the leg up pretty far forward actually, and then get a nice bend here, nice double bend there at the knee, which is not too bad of a bend there. Looks pretty nice. Got some nice detail with these little gray parts coming out of the armor around in there. The ankle armor, it's in the front, will move up and down a little bit there. You can bring the foot to the front and to the back. We got no separation as for like a toe bend here. It's just one solid piece on the bottom, but some nice detail up underneath there. And then side to side, you can also move that a little bit side to side there, like so for the ankle. So the ankle not too bad. You got some kind of nice like piston detail up in there, and the knee as well, you got some kind of piston details up in there. And then just going back to the issue of seam lines, pretty much like here on top of the shoulders, that seam is hidden as just a detail, so you're fine on that. On the top of the torso as well, it's hidden as just a panel line there. On the front of the arms, the seam is also hidden as just a detail line there on the front of the arm, so you're good on that. On the back of the arm though, you will have a seam line that you'll need to work on there on the back, just right down through the middle there. On the thigh, the seam line is kind of like a panel line there. There's no like indent there for it, but it's just there. And so I think maybe describing the edge of that to turn that into a more obvious panel line I think would probably be the best way, or you could just remove that all entirely if you wanted to. And the same thing here down on the lower leg as well. You have the line down the center of that. You could either turn into a panel line or get rid of that. It could kind of go either way, but it doesn't look too bad there like it is. And the line here on the back of the calf is just meant to look like a panel line there, so you're good with that one as well. And then here on the back of the knee is where you can see there's that cloth mesh part there to cover these parts. It looks kind of okay. You can see like around the edge, it's kind of hard to avoid like seeing a little frayed bits there around the edge of that, but I kind of did my best with that. Ultimately, I'll probably just end up replacing that detail later on. So then for some other hand option parts here, we have a fixed pose like trigger finger hand here for the right hand, which is pretty nice, and then a fixed pose just closed fist here for the left hand, so you got some nice option parts there. We've got our core fighter with a landing gear. You can remove the landing gear and you can actually transform this into the closed form of the core fighter, but I think most people are probably just going to leave this as it is, and it does look pretty nice. You got some nice detail on there, clear part for the canopy, a seated little tiny pilot inside there, little Amuro, and overall just some nice detail on this. Got our clear pink beam saber effect parts here, of course, and our beam rifle, which is a pretty nice design. You got a clear part for the camera for that. That moves back and forth. The forward handle here moves back and forth as well. You got this little part there at the bottom, which is kind of just loose dangling there, kind of interesting little part. So it's a kind of interesting design. I like the Ver.Ka design here for the rifle. It's slightly different from just the normal one, but it does look pretty cool. And then also the bazooka, which does also have a clear part for the camera for that as well. This handle does not move at all like we see with later versions of the bazooka. It's just fixed posed there like that, and pretty much everything here is just fixed. You will have some seam lines here on the weapons, of course, down the barrel. So probably don't need to point that out to you. It should be pretty obvious, but you will have those seam lines you need to work on the weapons. Overall, the design of this is pretty nice. It's kind of more simple design of the bazooka, a little bit more slim design I feel like than later versions. So I kind of maybe like prefer later versions of this where the barrel is white and it's a little bit larger, but this one is pretty nice as well. And then of course the shield, which does not feature the yellow cross on the front of it, interestingly. For this version of the shield, you can also store the beam saber handles here in the back of the shield if you wanted, which would look kind of weird if they're not on the backpack. But you can put them there if you wanted to. You have two different options for the connection piece for this. Use this connection piece if you want to store the shield on the back of the arm. Use this one if you want to store it here on the side of the arm, which I prefer, so I'm going to use this one. And then you can see on the back of the shield, you got a lot of detail there, but it's just all going to be molded in the same white piece. So to paint that all in gray, you probably just want to go ahead and mask around the edges of this and then just spray this center section there in gray to make it look like the proper color, I suppose. And then of course this kit came out before action bases were really a thing, so you don't have any way to connect this onto an action base, so you have to use this piece here, which is not very good. This is one that I have. It's like the right width, but it's one that's cut down and it kind of fits up on there. But I suppose putting this up on an action base probably going to be modification is going to be the better bet for this. Drilling a hole up into one of these parts or something like that to just use like the standard 1/44 scale like peg adapter for this would probably be the best way to go. So I think it's pretty much safe to say that this kit's strong point is not going to be doing like dynamic poses up on an action base, just because the action base connector is just not very solid, and it's kind of you kind of are more like doing a balancing act up on an action base connector there. And also that fork action base adapter is going to also get in the way of the hip joint a little bit, so it's kind of hard to get the full spread or movement there from the hip because that thing is just kind of in the way there. Also, of course, some points of the articulation just not that great, so it's also going to be a little bit inhibiting to your pose posing as well. So I think if you wanted like a cool dynamic posing RX-78-2, you're better off getting a 2.0 or a 3.0 or the Origin version, one of the later master grades. But of course, the main point of this kit, again, is just getting that cool Katoki look that you can't get with the later versions. So holding the weapons and everything is pretty much fine. The shield, the beam sabers, the beam rifle is all fine. You don't have any problems with that. Holding the bazooka, though, you will have a little bit of trouble because the handle on the bazooka doesn't move, because the wrist joint on this is pretty limited also as well. I mean, it's a wrist joint, you wouldn't expect too much, but you're not really able to hold the bazooka up over the shoulder at all, really. So you're going to be kind of limited to basically holding the bazooka up underneath the arm, which doesn't look bad. It's just if you wanted it to look cool up over the shoulder, you're not really going to be able to do that very easily with this without doing some modification, I think. So that's out of the picture, but you do have, you can attach the bazooka onto the back skirt too if you just want to just kind of have it without actually having it attached. So overall, I think this is just kind of right down the middle of the line between being a good and a bad kit. It's bad for obvious reasons, just its age mostly is kind of the thing. It's just an old master grade, so it's of course not going to be up to the standards of modern master grades, but I think it is still equally good in that it's actually not that bad for its age. It does have some nice color separation in some places. Some of the articulation is not actually that bad. It's pretty standard for a master grade, really. And of course, you just got that cool Katoki design, which you're just not going to be able to get in other versions of the master grade RX-78-2. So let me know what you guys think down below. And here's a question I would like to pose to you guys, something to chat about there in the comment section, is what's your favorite master grade Ver.Ka kit that's come out so far? We've had a good amount of them out at this point, and I'm just curious as to what people's favorite are, because I know this is an older one, but I know it's still one that people do enjoy still quite a bit despite its age. So I'm just wondering what people's favorite master grade Ver.Ka kits are. Let me know down in the comment section and discuss about that. And again, guys, if you want to check out the link down there in the video description to USA Gundam Store, check that as well. You can save 10% off everything there on the site using my coupon code ZakuAurelius10, so check that out also. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you have any other further questions or comments, let me know in the comment section there also. I'll try to answer any other further questions you might have about this, but hopefully that covers it pretty well. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.